Orange parties are currently leading in Ukraine's parliamentary elections. With a little over 50% of the votes counted, 6 parties have crossed the 3% threshold to be eligible for seats in parliament. The gap is narrowing slightly between the bloc of Yulia Tymoshenko and the Party of Regions of Prime Minister Viktor Yanukovych. And with the latest results, Russia Today's Bill Dodd joins me now from Kiev. Bill, hello to you. So, could you, what's the latest? How's the vote counting going?
Yes, Yulia, the hot sun is beating down on Kiev and things are beginning to take shape in the light of day as the results are coming in. But in terms of the political situation, whether that's getting any clearer is a different matter altogether. Now, as you said a little earlier, 50% of the votes have come in, but there are 2 measurements we can take at this stage of the day, which gives us an idea of how the election is going. The first one is the results of the exit polls. This is where people are asked how they voted once they cast their vote. It's not an official result as such, but it does give us a very good indication of how the election has gone. Let's have a look at those results on screen now. As we can see at the top of the list, at the top of the party there, at the top of the table, the Party of Regions with 35.5%. That is the Prime Minister Viktor Yanukovych's party. Also in second place we've got Yulia Tymoshenko, as you can see there on the screen, with 31.5%, followed up by the Our Ukraine party, the President's party, the President who of course called this election in the first place, with 13.4%. Now, as I say, that's a very good indication of how the voting is going. But now, as we know, we've got 50% of the votes counted in the country. So let's have a look and see how those votes are showing now. And as you can see, there is a discrepancy, not exactly reflecting the same we saw in the previous table with the exit polls. At the top of the list there, we see Yulia Tymoshenko with 33.3%, I should say, followed up by the Party of Regions with 30.6%, then the Our Ukraine party with 15.6%. Just to remind you, over 20 parties have taken part in this election, and that means that the smaller parties, 3 of them in fact, have managed to register some sort of measurement which could well give them a seat in Parliament. That includes the Communists with 5.0%, Litvin Bloc with 4.2%, and the Socialists, which is a surprise appearance at this stage, with 3.2%. So that's how it's looking on the tables. And just to say also, we're hearing that in Donetsk and the Kharkova and Kharkova city, which are 2 cities in the east of Ukraine, those results are now in, but they haven't been declared yet. Once we hear those results, they could be very crucial and can change the whole scene altogether. Yulia.
All right, so you say that Yulia Tymoshenko is leading now. So will she be able to sustain this lead as the vote counting continues?
Well, perhaps not, actually, because since we last spoke, her share has fallen. Yulia Tymoshenko, well, she may not sustain that lead. Peter Lavelle, our political commentator, is here with me in Kiev. It's beginning to take shape now.
Just as I thought. I think the exit poll and the final result will pretty much match. We have to remember some of the electoral regions are getting their votes in faster. They're counting them faster. In the west, it's easier. It's not as populated. In the east, it's more populated. It's going to take them more time. So as the vote is counted more and more, it's more and more matching the exit poll. So I would suspect that we will see Yulia Tymoshenko's numbers go down and the regions slightly go up.
Peter, hypothetical questions, what-if questions for you quickly. What if the exit polls are wrong?
Then we could see some litigation. As we've been watching this election, there's been a lot of, I wouldn't call it fraud, but irregularities. There's been a lot of mistakes. Whoever feels they're on the losing side will call litigation. This could, in theory, could put the final vote all the way out to November, 55 days. Whoever feels aggrieved will go to the courts.
What if Tymoshenko and Yushchenko decide to form a coalition?
Well, if they get a majority of votes, they'll be able to do it, but she's the most divisive politician in this country. She will not be widely accepted. She's not a unifier.
All right, what if then she becomes Prime Minister?
Then it's going to be more problematic because people are going to test that coalition. We've seen that the President and Tymoshenko have had a lot of problems in the past. They will look for problems to pull them apart in the future. But we'll see. Maybe there's a learning curve here. But, you know, as things change, this is really turning into a real race here, and I'm going to have to look at every single percentage point.
Just finally, Peter, what if there's no political resolution at all? How can this country possibly carry on in the way it is, in this political limbo?
They have to. They have to make budgets, they have to pay pensions, they have to clean the streets. What it means, Bill, is that we may be doing this again in a couple of months.
I don't mind, actually, because
I love Kiev too.
Lovely place indeed. Well, thanks very much indeed, Peter Lavelle, for your comments. And that's it from us in Kiev just for the moment. It's back to you now, Yulia, in Moscow.
Great stuff. Thank you very much indeed, both for you gentlemen. Thank you. And our correspondent in Donetsk, Anissa, now it says the turnout was high in the east of the country, although after the political activity of the past few weeks, the streets are relatively quiet as people return to the workday routine on Monday.
The same atmosphere as in Kiev, quiet and calm. Monday morning, everybody going back to work after a busy and active election day here in Donetsk. Voter turnout was high. In fact, over 60% of the registered voters in this region did come out to have their say. And like you say, results are varying. But at first, when it was announced that the favorite of this city, which is mostly Russian, Viktor Yanukovych's party, the Party of Regions, did come out first. So it seems that it's a very pleasing result for them so far, but like you said, it could change. But the day, in fact, did have its share of incidents. The president says this is it. Results will be final. But Sunday's vote, at least in Donetsk and its surrounding regions, came with hundreds of complaints and reports of several violations. At first, the city's own mayor didn't get to cast his vote as his name was on the absentee ballot. A court later decided it was his right, but he says the problem lies with faults in the system.
First of all, I think it proves the imperfection of electoral laws in our country. Secondly, it speaks of the irresponsibility of the social services. Even after a month, they do not know where the Ukrainian citizens are. This is what happened to me. I'd handed in all the filled-out migration cards with leaving and coming back to the country. But when a month later I arrived at the polling station, my name was crossed out. They said, going on the information from the immigration services.
Many citizens ran into the same problem. At least 1,000 complaints were phoned in to a special election hotline. The Constitution forbids any voter registration list to be changed on election days. But some courts made exceptions, citing the article of the Constitution, which provides all citizens the right to vote. The number of those who for various reasons were not able to vote in eastern Ukraine is still unclear, and it is not known how this might affect poll results.
We haven't found any systematic violations during the election, so we hope no incidents will take place, and the results of the vote will be recognized as valid.
This election was meant to bring stability and end turmoil. Only when official results are in can Sunday's violations be thoroughly investigated. Now, when polls closed here in Donetsk and those exit polls began being announced, it did look like the Party of Regions had come in first. Like I said, they are the favorite of this mostly Russian city, but the streets were dead. There were no celebration, no noises. It looks like, although there was active campaigning and a good turnout, that people are tired of politics here. They're going to sit back and let the politicians play their game.